Now let's see the question number 51. Among the following, which is not the indication for dextran? Option A, use as plasma substitute. Option B, correcting hypervolemia. Option C, to improve microcirculation in vascular gangrene. Option D, prophylaxis of deep vein thrombosis. Which is not the indication for dextran? The right answer is option B for correcting hypervolemia. So usually the dextran is a plasma expander and it is used to treat hypovolemia. It is not used to treat the hypervolemia. Now let's see the question number 52. Alcohol which is used in clinical setting for skin disinfection. This is a type of which alcohol? Option A, methyl alcohol. B, isopropyl alcohol. C, ethyl alcohol. And D, ethanol. The alcohol which is used in the hospital setting for disinfecting the skin is a type of isopropyl alcohol. Option B is right here. Question number 53. The isopropyl alcohol, also known as isopropanol or IPA, is the most common and widely used disinfectant within the pharmaceutics, hospitals and clean rooms and electronics or medical device manufacturing. Now let's see the question number 53. Amniotomy is done because it option A enhances effacement, B decreases maternal blood pressure, C to prolong the labor, option D to treat polyhydramnios. So this amniotomy is done. The right reason is to enhances the effacement. Option A is right here. The rationale, usually amniotomy is done to when the cervix is effaced and 2 centimeter dilated, but it can be performed with minimal cervical dilatation also. Question number 54. A 44-year-old male client with a gunshot wound to the abdomen has the following vital signs: heart rate 138, respiratory rate of 24 beats per minute, breath per minute, and blood pressure of 100 by 60. So definitive treatment should be aimed at reversing which of the following psychophysiology mechanism. So in a gunshot wound, which intervention is needed to done to reverse the psychophysiology mechanism? The right options: abdominal circulatory hemodynamics secondary to the fluid sequestration and intravascular edema. Option B, inadequate blood perfusion to the tissues. Option C, increasing circulating levels of glucocorticoids. Option D, increased circulating levels of thyroid hormones. So the right answer here, we need to maintain the blood perfusion to the tissues when there is a gunshot wound in the abdomen. The bleeding is very heavy, so we need to maintain the blood perfusion to the tissue is very right answer here. Question number 55. A sudden redness of the skin is known as option A, flush, B, erythema, C, jaundice, D, cyanosis. Sudden redness of the skin is called erythema. Option B, erythema is the right answer. Erythema, from the Greek word erythros, meaning red, it is the redness of the mucous membrane or skin caused by hyperemia, increased blood flow in superficial capillaries. It occurs with any skin injury, infection or inflammation. Examples of erythema are not associated with pathology includes nervous blushes. Question number 56. The best and safest method of sterilization is option A, autoclaving, B, immersion in chemical germicide, option C, flaming. It is flaming. Option D, boiling for 30 minutes. So the safest method for sterilization, the right answer is autoclaving is the very safest method for sterilizing the articles in the clinical settings. Image-based question, question number 57. Identify the image. It is a digital sphygmomanometer, option A. Option B, anurite sphygmomanometer. Option C, cuff manometer. Option D, Android sphygmomanometer. The right answer is option C, cuff manometer. Move on to question number 58. What is this equipment? Option A, ready bag drain. B, Penrose drain. C, Himvac drain. Option D, Jacobson Prot drain. So this equipment is option C, Hemovac drain. Question number 59. Identify the procedure. Option A, tracheostomy. B, percutaneous transcatheter biliary drainage. Option C, percutaneous transcatheter cholangiography. Option D, central venous line insertion. So this procedure is central venous line insertion. Option D is right here. Question number 60. Identify the name of this device. Option A, digital spirometer. B, alcohol breath analyzer. Option C, oral glucometer. Option D, oral anesthetic inhaler. So this is a alcohol breath analyzer. Option B is right. Question number 61. So abnormality of this uterus is option A, bicornuate uterus. Option B, uterus arcuatus. Option C, uterus didelphus. Option D, uterus bicornus. So this type of uterus abnormality is the uterus is divided into two, that is uterus didelphus. Option C, uterus didelphus is right. Question number 62. Name the following device. Option A, automated external defibrillator. Option C, biphasic defibrillator. Option C, ALS monitor. Option D, wall mountable defibrillator. So this device is automated external defibrillator. Question number 63. A child is diagnosed with lead poisoning and chelation therapy was prescribed. The nurse who cares this child would prepare to administer which of the following medications? Option A, calcium disodium EDTA. Option B, Ipex syrup. Option C, sodium bicarbonate. Option D, activated charcoal. So the chelation therapy agent for lead poisoning is option A, calcium sodium EDTA. Calcium disodium EDTA, that is CANA 2-EDTA, is indicated in acute and chronic lead poisoning and in lead encephalopathy for reducing the blood levels, and it stores the toxic metal ion in both pediatrics and in adult population. Question number 64. A nurse is closely monitoring a child with increased intracranial pressure who has been exhibiting decorticate posturing. The nurse notes that this behavior of a child interprets that this change in the child's condition indicates which of the following? Option A, an improvement in the child's condition. B, an insignificant finding. Option C, decreasing in the intracranial pressure. Option D, determining the neurological function. So decorticate posturing in the child who is having increased intracranial pressure suggests that the condition is deteriorating. The neurological function is deteriorating. So decerebrate posture is an abnormal body posture that involves the arms and legs being held straight out, the toes being pointed downward, and the head and neck being arched backward. The muscles are tightened and held rigidly. This type of posturing usually means that there has been severe damage to the brain. Question number 65. Which of the following a nurse should do first after noticing that a child with Hirschsprung disease has a fever and water explosive diarrhea. Option A, notify the physician immediately. B, administer anti-diarrheal medications. Option C, nothing. This is a characteristic of Hirschsprung disease. Option D, monitor for every 30 minutes. Monitor the child for every 30 minutes. So in this condition, we need to report to the physician immediately when the child has fever and explosive diarrhea, watery explosive diarrhea. Question number 66. Which of the following nursing diagnoses would the nurse identify as a priority for the infant with tracheoesophageal fistula? Option A. Ineffective breathing pattern related to a weak diaphragm. Option B. Ineffective nutrition less than body requirement related to poor sucking ability. Option C. Impaired parenting related to newborn's illness. Option D. Risk for infection related to increased potential for respiration. So, in the tracheoesophageal fistula, the priority nursing diagnosis would be option D. Risk for infection related to increased potential for respiration. So, pneumonia can occur. So, this should be treated very immediately to prevent further infections. Question number 67. A tracheoesophageal fistula should be suspected in a neonate immediately after birth if one of the following is present. Option A, bilious vomiting. B, jaundice. C, absence of sucking. Option D, excessive frothy saliva. So when we suspect for a tracheoesophageal fistula in a newborn baby, when the baby have excessive frothy saliva. Option D is right here. So one of the primary symptoms for diagnosing tracheoesophageal fistula is the presence of excessive frothy saliva from the mouth of the newborn baby. So the symptoms others includes like coughing or choking when feeding, vomiting, blue color of the skin that is cyanosis, especially when the baby is feeding, difficulty in breathing and very round and full abdomen. So these are the other features of tracheoesophageal fistula. Now come to the question number 68. A nurse is assessing the vital signs of a 3-year-old child hospitalized with a diagnosis of cough. She notes that respiratory rate of the child is 28 beats per minute, breath per minute. Based on this finding, which nursing action is appropriate? Option A, notify the physician. B, administer oxygen. C, reassess the respiratory rate in 15 minutes. Option D, document the current findings. So in CROW, the respiratory rate, which is 28 breath per minute, the nursing action which is appropriate should be option D. It is this finding should be documented because this is the expected finding. Question number 69. A patient is suspected to be suffer from celiac disease. The physician orders an endoscopy. If the patient has some celiac disease, which finding will be diagnosed with endoscopy? Option A, cobblestone appearance throughout the intestine. Option B, over exaggerated intestinal villi. Option C, ulceration in the small intestine, especially the jejunum. Option D, villus atrophy. So in celiac disease, when you do an endoscopy, the significant finding which we detect in the endoscopic procedure is option D, atrophy of the villi of the intestines that you will find. Celiac disease is a chronic inflammation triggered by the ingestion of gluten and resulting in a dense infiltration of lymphocytes in the proximal small intestine. Classic pathological findings in histology are mucosal inflammation, crypt hyperplasia, and villus atrophy. Question number 70. A patient is admitted with the emergency room with the following signs and symptoms. Very painful mid-epigastric pain felt in the back, elevated glucose, fever, and vomiting. During the head-to-toe assessment, you notice bluish discoloration around the around the belly button. As the nurse, you should know to call this as option A Cullen's sign, B McBurney's sign, option C Homer's sign, option D Gray Turner's sign. So here, this sign in which you are noticing a bluish discoloration around the belly button, and that is called as Cullen's sign that you see in the acute pancreatitis. So this is known as Cullen's sign. It represents a retroperitoneal bleeding from the leakage of the digestive enzyme the from the inflamed pancreas into the surrounding tissues, which is causing bleeding, and it is leaking down to umbilicus tissues. Remember, the C is Cullen for circle and the belly button from a circle. So the patient can also have Gray Turner's sign, which is bluish discoloration at the flank region at the side of the abdomen. So don't confuse between the Cullen sign and the Gray Turner sign. Cullen sign in the center of the abdomen, that is around the belly button, whereas the Gray Turner sign will be in the flank region, in the side of the abdomen. Remember, this is by Turner. Turner means turn her over her side, which is where the bluish discoloration will be present. In Gray Turner sign, it is present in the flank region. When you make the patient to turn, you can notice the sign. That's why Gray Turner sign. So that is a point to remember. Question number 71. While assessing a patient with chronic pancreatitis to the bathroom, you note the patient's stool to be oily, greasy in appearance. In your documentation, you note this as option A melena, B steatorrhea, C hematoxysia, option D current. So this condition is called steatorrhea, in the condition characterized by oily, greasy stool. Question number 71, the rationale is here. Move on to question number 72. During a home health visit, you are assessing how a patient takes the prescribed pancreatic enzyme. The patient is unable to swallow the capsule whole, so they open the capsule and mix the beads inside the capsule with a food or drink. Which food or drink is safe for the patient to mix the beads with? Option A ice cream, B pudding, C applesauce, D milk. So the pancreatic enzyme should be ingested by mixing with the acidic medium of juice. So we go for applesauce. Applesauce is the right answer here. The patient should mix the medication with acidic foods like applesauce. It is very important that the patient does not use alkaline foods for mixing like dairy products, pudding, etc. because they can damage the enzymes. Question number 73. Your patient with acute pancreatitis is scheduled for a test that will use a scope to assess the pancreas, bile ducts, and gallbladder. The patient asks you, what is the name of the test I am going to test for today? So you tell the patient this test is called option A ERCP, B MRCP, option C CT scan of the abdomen, option D ECG. So when you are going to do the visualization of the pancreas, bile duct and gallbladder, that test is called ERCP. ERCP is nothing but endoscopic retrograde cholangiopancreatography. It is used to diagnose and sometimes treat the causes of pancreatitis. It will assess the pancreas, bile ducts, and gallbladder. In addition, the doctor may be able to remove the gallstone, dilate the blocked ducts with stent or balloons, and drain or presenting cyst, etc. Question number 74. A 54-year-old admitted with diabetes mellitus, malnutrition, osteomyelitis, and alcohol abuse has a serum amylase level of 280 international unit per liter and a serum lipase level of 310 unit per liter. So, to what diagnosed state does the nurse attribute these findings? Option A, malnutrition; B, osteomyelitis; C, alcohol abuse; D, diabetes mellitus. So here the right answer would be when the serum amylase level 280 international unit per liter and serum lipase level of 310 unit per liter in a diabetes mellitus client who is suffering from malnutrition and osteomyelitis along with this alcohol abuse, we can go for the diagnosis of alcohol abuse. Now move on to question number 75. 74. The rationale: the patient with alcohol abuse could develop pancreatitis as a complication, which would increase the serum amylase. The normal level is 30 to 122 international unit per liter, and serum lipase, the normal level is 31 to 186 international unit per liter. Malnutrition, osteomyelitis, and diabetes mellitus would not contribute to this increased level of serum amylase and serum lipase. So we can suspect alcohol abuse can cause the pancreatitis. As a result of that, the amylase, serum amylase and serum lipase level tends to rise. Question number 75. Which action of the student nurse indicates effective learning about determining the effectiveness of pancreatic enzyme replacement in a patient with chronic pancreatitis? Option A, observing the patient's stool. Option B, observing the patient's urine. Option C, observing the patient's saliva. Option D, observing the patient nasal drainage. So the right answer for this question is option A. We need to observe the patient's stool. So that determines the effectiveness of pancreatic enzyme replacement therapy in a patient who is having chronic pancreatitis. The rationale is very simple. Patients with pancreatitis have diminished or absence of pancreatic lipases, the enzyme that break down fat. This leads to steatorrhea, which is characterized by greasy and foul-smelling stool. Therefore, observing the patient's stool for steatorrhea helps to determine the effectiveness of pancreatic enzymes. Through dry mouth and dark urine or manifestations of pancreatitis, the effectiveness of enzymes cannot be determined by observing the urine and saliva. There is no change in the patient nasal secretion. Therefore, observing nasal secretion will not be helpful in determining the enzyme's efficiency.